if we begin by either sitting, if you're comfortable to sit, then come to sitting. If you're feeling like you really need to just lie down, then do go ahead and lie down. I'm sure we can adapt it, this beginning bit of breathing. But take your time to get yourself ready, and whichever position you choose, once you're ready to, see if you can settle yourself into stillness. And in that stillness, there's no need to do anything. Not even to the breath. See if you can become aware of the breath, but without doing anything to it. So just noticing the quiet, natural breath. I mean, if you need to have a yawn, if a yawn starts, then go ahead and yawn. But otherwise, just letting things be as they are. And then taking the hands to the opposite sides of the ribs. So we won't do the whole sequence, but just taking the hands across the sort of solar plexus area so that the fingers wrap round the sides of the ribs. And just gradually, when you're ready, seeing if you can begin to start to breathe more deeply and consciously. If you can, directing the breath into the sides of the ribs. And as we begin to breathe more deeply, I wonder if you could also pay attention to where we are in terms of the time of the day of the week, and the time of the season. So noticing that we're at that time where the seasons change. And so as you breathe more deeply into the sides of the ribs, I wonder if you could pay particular attention to the transitions between the breaths. So being aware of the end of the inhalation as it turns into the exhalation, and being aware of the end of the exhalation as it turns into the inhalation. And if you keep deepening the breath and maybe uncross the arms and take the hands to the floating ribs, so the thumbs go round the back and the fingers point round the front, and they're at the level of the diaphragm, so sort of the bottom of the rib cage. And as you inhale, let the rib cage broaden and the floating ribs flare. And then as you breathe out, you could use the arms to squeeze the ribs towards each other. So deepening the breath down into the diaphragm even more. But again, especially noticing the transitions. And if you maybe carry on, but just perhaps let your hands rest somewhere in your lap or on your knees or by your sides, and just take a few more rounds of deep breathing. If you can, especially focusing on breathing into the diaphragm and the sides and the back of the ribs. So the belly expands, the back opens up, the ribs broaden rather than the chest lifting up. And being especially conscious of the transitions between the two phases of the breath. In the storytelling training that I did this weekend, we talked, or it was mentioned, about something called the monomyth. And the monomyth is that there is only one story. When you look at all of the stories of the world, they all, you could distill them down to one story. And that story is found in the breath and in the seasons and in the cycle of life and so on. And the transitions between the breaths, those in-between spaces. The places of transformation, seeing if you can be especially conscious of those moments. And we'll take that into the practice. So if you change your position to all fours, I'll put my lights on whilst you do that. So when you get there, if you come back to your breathing, make sure that your hands aren't too close to your knees, that you've got lots of space between your hands and your knees so that your front spine can be open. And as you breathe in, some of you might like to arch your spine, but watch how your back feels. You could just be in a flat back. And then as you breathe out, pressing down through the hands to spread the shoulders, bring the chin to the chest, and then release again to a flat back or arching the spine. As you breathe out and round the back like a cat, you could also, as well as spreading the shoulder blades and bringing the chin to the chest, you could also try to bring the tailbone between the thighs so that your lower back stretches out as well. And I don't know, but I think we've got a full moon. As I drove back last night, it looked quite full. So, connecting as you breathe into the element of water, and perhaps the next time as you breathe out, as well as cat stretching and rounding the back, if you also start to take your hips back towards your heels and then coming up onto all fours, arching the spine again. And I think some of you were here when I said it last week. Seeing if you can imagine as though your breath were like a stream flowing. And if your breath were like a stream that's flowing, the movement is as though you're stepping into the stream and you're going with the flow of the stream. You're not going against the flow. You're not sort of trying to swim upstream, but swimming downstream with the flow. The transitions between the breaths could be like little eddies in the water. Maybe where you change direction slightly as you go downstream. And perhaps adding down dog into the sequence. So next time as you breathe out, if you like, you could tuck your toes under and come into down dog, and then inhale to all fours. Exhaling into child again.